people and their environment. Writing poems about people and their environment can get a little tricky. Um, what I found that works for me is to basically write it in like in moments of time of what happened in their environment when they were in their environment. I make a note to write down a few things about their behavior, a few things about my relationship to them, how we correspond or communicate, and also a little bit about the environment that we're in. What I also believe works is to write it first, like it's like this little story, and even have their names in it, and your name in it. This way, you don't feel like you're determined to write a poem from the beginning. You don't feel that pressure. Um, or you can write it as a letter about them, as if maybe you're writing a story about them. Pretend that you're writing a little story about them, and they're a character in your in this story. Um, so I'm learning that if I sit down and I say I'm going to write this poem about this, it doesn't happen that way. I'm already backing myself into a corner. So what I try to do is I say I'm going to write a story about them and about us. So I guess you can say I'm sort of Jedi mind tricking myself. Keeping myself out of the corner so that I can write. Because the moment that I feel like I'm being pushed in a corner and when I'm trying to write a poem, automatically I start to draw a blank. I start to get a block. And you know how us poets can panic when we feel a block. So for this poetry prompt we have on the workshop is called Other People. The main subject, the main theme of your poem should be about other people. For the prolific writers who want to dive right into writing more poems about other people, paying attention more to other people in their environment, you can write a chapbook. If you write a poem every day in the month of August for the rest of the month and write it about other people, it could be from a memory, you will have written the chapbook. All you got to do is commit to one poem a day on a theme that you've chosen. So it could be a poem a day about other people and you. Or you can write a poem a day about all the poems are just around you. And then there you have a chapbook just about you. Primarily where you're the main subject. Again, don't forget to always pick your topic ahead of time. Okay? What I am doing more is exploring more, letting the thinking happen. Just think. Write what you're thinking. As a plain thinking story when you're writing your poems. Don't even focus on a lot of imagery. Let the imagery come when it wants to come, when you feel like a particular thought is not clear. And you'll feel that in the poem because you'll feel a little bit of stillness where it's like something else should go there. And if your poem just suddenly just ends, most likely it wants to end like that. I have a poem that ends with or. I have a poem that just ends with like 3 words. You just never know. To help you to get into thinking as you write these poems now, the thinking part of poetry, you can read Charles Bukowski's book, The Last Night of the Earth Poems, or some of his. I bought his poems because I was in a thinking stage of writing poetry at the time. His poetry is very general and general thinking, it doesn't really get very thick in the imagery. He basically lets you decide what you're seeing beyond the obvious of his nouns and his poems. So this is a good way. You can read him to get into just writing more general thinking. It's best to write your poems like he writes his poems, which is very general, maybe all general, and just thinking and then going back and seeing if there's anything you want to add a little bit more spice to, which might be a more specific imagery too. So I would suggest reading Charles Bukowski for the general and thinking part. Sharon Olds definitely for thinking, for sprinkling thinking lines in with your imagery. Also Stephen Dunn for sprinkling thinking, to just be playing thinking within the imagery as he does. So I hope this video helped you. This is our challenge, other people, for the rest of the month. This is book challenge, not for our book for the workshop, but for you writing your own book. You don't have to do it. It's just to give you an idea. So every day, go somewhere, write down some notes that you see about people. Be a little sneaky investigator and reporter. Write down. It could be in the library, at a store, on the street, in a restaurant, at your parents' house. You know, write down the people. Write down something you notice about somebody there, in their environment, their behavior, and maybe even your connection. And let that be your poem for that day. Then do the same thing the next day, and the next day, and the next day. Go to someplace else for 20 days. At least you'll be getting out, getting some air, and you'll be writing a book. Within 20 days or 25 days, you will have written a chapbook. And I have a nice list of different publishers I can easily pass on to members of the workshop who are active to submit their chapbooks to. Thanks for watching, and I can't wait to read your other people poems.